Hey, what's going on? And welcome back to another Phil's Monday movie review. I'm glad to be here and I'm glad that you're here. And my recommendation for this week is The Host. Now, I don't think I've mentioned this on this channel before, but I'm actually a host of the Horrrble People's podcast. I'm one of three hosts, the sexiest host, if you don't mind, of this podcast. And usually me and my two good friends, Alex and Anthony, we get together and we talk about horror films. And this week, we're talking about The Host. So if you want to learn more about The Host, and we go into a bigger, much deeper dive onto this film on that episode, and the link to the podcast can be found in the description below. I have a great time. I love being a part of this podcast, and we just have a great time. And if you're looking for a new podcast to listen to, or if you're just a fan of horror films, this might be a really good podcast to check out. So that's it. The link to the podcast can be found in the description below. But today we are talking about Bong Joon-ho's The Host. And with all that being said, let's get started. The Host, released in 2006 and directed by my boy Bong Joon-ho. The Host tells the story of a man's daughter kidnapped by a big monster that terrorizes the Han River in South Korea. And it is up to this man, with the help of his family, to rescue the little girl from the grasp of this scary amphibian monster. Pretty simple story to follow, right? I mean, you have the big, ugly, scary monster terrorizing the people, and it even kidnaps the little girl of the family, and the family goes ahead and tries to rescue this little girl from the creature, and yeah, that's it. You have a movie right there. Pretty simple story to follow, right? However, Bong Joon-ho paints a picture that's suitable for all audiences to follow, but The Host is far more from being just a simple story. In the beginning of The Host, an American pathologist orders his Korean assistant to dump all the bottles of formaldehyde down the drain that leads straight to the Han River. And over the next few years, a large amphibious creature, this creation of a careless scientist, terrorizes a community in South Korea. This creature, a duo effort of two nations, a representation of power, influence, and complicity. This creature takes away lives and destroys others. That's including Gong-do and the Park family. The Park family, along with many others, were affected by this creature's horrible acts on that bright sunny day at the Han River Park. And this is where we are introduced to Gong-do and the Park family. Aside from the political satires and the real-life crisis, The Host illustrates a really beautiful story set inside the Park family. The Park family grieves for the loss of little Hyun-soo after witnessing the creature snatching Gong-do's daughter away from them and into the Han River. The government places the family into quarantine. The government pulls a big lie out of their ass and say that the creature was the host of a quote-unquote deadly virus. After receiving a phone call from none other than little Hyun-soo, Gong-do and his two siblings and his father make a plan to escape from the hospital and rescue Hyun-soo from the creature. And I'll go ahead and leave the rest of the plot details for you to check out on your own, because The Host packs a powerful punch that's filled with thrills and even comedy. For instance, there's even a brilliant scene where Hyun-soo makes an attempt to escape from the creature, and that scene alone is filled with some really good tension. Look, there's no doubt that The Host is more than just a monster movie. To me, this is a work of art. Is it my favorite Bong Joon-ho film? Probably not, but it is definitely the first one I was introduced to. I remember in high school, my buddy had a copy of The Host on DVD and invited me over to watch it. I immediately loved it. At the time, little cute and young 17-year-old Phill didn't spot the metaphors drawn all over this picture, but old, seasoned, hairy, and grizzled 35-year-old Phill, well, he finally sees them now. Of course, The Host utilizes the humans are the real monster trope. Just like in the Fifth Element video, humans also suck in this one too. When doing a little bit of research for this film, I noticed that fans went and said that America is the real sewer monster. In fact, this film is inspired by actual real-life events that happened back in 2000, where a Korean mortician working in a US military base in Seoul was ordered to dump a large amount of formaldehyde down the drain, causing an ecological controversy. Korean citizens were furious and formed an antagonism toward the United States. In The Host, when we see the American doctor order his Korean assistant to dump all the bottles of formaldehyde down the drain, we are literally seeing a metaphor between the relationship between America and Korea. America is the quote-unquote greater power influencing the smaller power, as we see the American doctor tell the Korean doctor what to do. The Korean doctor, at first, he protests, but the American doctor has a bigger, stronger influence, and his power pretty much just overrules the Korean doctor. Also, in The Host, the deadly chemical named Agent Yellow is a reference to Agent Orange. Agent Orange is a chemical herbicide produced in the US in the 1940s and later used by the US military during the Vietnam War. The US military even exposed Agent Orange to Korea during the DMZ conflict in the late 1960s. Bong Joon-ho has gone on record and stated that The Host is not an anti-American film. However, if you look at the creature itself, the creature can represent a duo effort between the American government with its big, powerful influence and the Korean government with its complicity. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that Bong Joon-ho developed a beautiful story set within the Park family. Our heroes in this film illustrate a great example of growth and empathy. Gang-doo's brother and sister see him as a clumsy, lazy, and pathetic buffoon. In the scene where Gang-doo is passed out of sleep while they search for little Hyun-soo, Gang-doo's father explains to his two other children to look past what they see in Gang-doo, to not judge him from what they see in the surface level, and he also even reminded them to look at his past and to see what made him the way he is now, and to look at his character before even scolding him. Towards the film's climax, we see the Park siblings take on the creature themselves. Nam-il, a clear representation of South Korea's angered youth, sets the creature on fire. Nam-ju, with a clear shot of the creature, a clear shot at redemption, shows no hesitation as she shoots an arrow straight into the creature's eye. And finally, Gang-doo impales the creature with a fucking pole. This time, Gang-doo makes sure that his clumsiness doesn't cost the lives of anyone else. There is even a very beautiful thing to look at between Gang-doo and his daughter Hyun-soo. If you notice in the film, Hyun-soo took on the responsibility of looking out for this little boy while they're being held captive by the creature. She didn't have to, but she did. And if you notice at the end of the film, Gang-doo took on the responsibility of adopting the same little boy, and we're looking at a story between father and daughter separated by two different times of their lives. They took on the responsibility of helping out those in need, and they did it because they are very good people, regardless of all the horrors that's going on in their lives right now with the creature and the government. Regardless of everything that's going on, at the end of the day, they are still good people. The Host is obviously an emotionally driven piece of art. From the political satires and the real-life scenarios that The Host is influenced from, this is still a very great story about family with really beautiful characters involved and a really good story. At the end of the day, this is still a very fun monster movie, and I love this movie so damn much. I had a great time revisiting this, and with all that being said, The Host is absolutely 100% cinema. But that is it for Phil's Monday movie review and The Host, directed by Bong Joon-ho. Have you seen it? And if you have, let's talk about it. And be sure to tune in next week where we talk about another movie. But until then, take care. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. Also, one more quick shout out for the Horrible People's podcast. If you're looking for new podcasts to listen to, or if you're a fan of horror films, then I think this podcast might be something that you might dig. The link for the podcast can be found in the description below. And thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Peace.